Hi there. If this is the first time you're on my channel, I'm Amanda Orgel, and it's a real pleasure to have you here with me today. And I don't know if you've ever stopped to think about this, but a lot of times we believe we're acting to avoid losing a person. And what we don't realize is that everything we're doing isn't preventing us from losing them. What we're actually doing is preventing that person from losing us. Take a second to think about that because it's actually completely different. And I'll repeat it, but think about it. You're there when you rewrite the message, when you search, when you try again, when you make excuses for someone who hasn't even apologized to you, when you play dumb. All of those actions, you do them from a place of saying, I don't want to lose this person. But none of those actions stop you from losing that person. And in fact, you usually end up experiencing how, little by little, that person keeps pulling away, keeps getting colder, starts treating you worse. Why? Because all those actions don't prevent us from losing the other person. What they do is prevent the other person from losing us. When I find myself in a situation where I'm not feeling reciprocated by the other person, I enter into a dilemma, right? A conflict. What do I do? And that's when I have to decide whether I put in what the other person isn't putting in, or whether instead I let it be and see what happens. Every time I decide to put in what the other person isn't putting in, I'm investing in this situation, in this possible relationship, in this connection. Call it whatever you want. And I have to justify the investment. I don't fall in love only with what the other person does for me. That's just a small part of it. I fall in love more with what I'm willing to do for that person than with what that person is willing to do for me. Of course I like nice gestures. Of course a person who said sweet things to me can win me over with sweet things. But that's not really it. It's not about what the person does. It's more about how that person makes me feel about myself. When you say nice things to me, when you show me interest, when you give me attention, I feel good about myself. My self-esteem grows. I feel special. I feel seen. I feel chosen. So what makes me fall for someone when I receive things from them is how it makes me feel about myself, not what they actually do for me. I mean, sure, if you told me you'd bought me a house, okay, that helps a little. You know what I mean, joking aside. On the other hand, what I do for you, if I keep insisting, if I swallow my pride, if I keep trying, I have to think one of two things. Either I value myself too little, or you're worth a lot and you really deserve it. So it's easier, it feels better, to go with a version where I justify it by believing you're worth it. And the more I do, the more I fall into emotional debt, and the more entangled I get. Then there comes a point where I'm doing and doing and doing, hoping not to lose you, and meanwhile, I keep losing you anyway. The only thing I'm actually preventing is you losing me, because I'm building up a huge emotional debt. And let me tell you something. Let them lose you. Let them lose you. The person who doesn't reach out to you, let them feel your absence. Let them be able to miss you. The person who doesn't message you, let them not get your message. Let them not know how you are. Let them also have to wonder what you're doing, whether you're okay or not. And if they want to know, let them have to make the effort. There's nothing worse than trying to hold on to someone, and the only thing we achieve in return is that person being exempt from ever feeling like they're losing us. Why? Because in the end, it's like never putting a brake on their behavior. If a person starts neglecting me, stops making me feel good about myself, and what I do in response is keep acting exactly the same, sometimes even more intensely, then as far as that person is concerned, everything's still fine. That person keeps feeling like I'm still in their life, keeps feeling like they still have me, that everything's good. So obviously, I'm not putting any brake on that person's behavior, because even though I might be suffering a lot, since I'm masking it, since I'm not showing it, since I'm swallowing it down, telling myself it's so I don't lose them, and I repeat, I'm losing that person anyway, because someone who no longer treats me the same is already distancing themselves, already cooling off. But what I'm doing with all my actions is preventing that person from feeling like they're losing me. And by not feeling like they're losing me, the imbalance gets even worse. So where you think you see repair, it's actually the opposite. Let's look at this with the most basic, classic, everyday example, the one that seems most innocent. But so it's crystal clear, think about this. This person doesn't reach out to you, right? Let's say that before, for a while, this person used to say good morning to you, ask how you slept, whatever. And now you wake up in the morning and this person hasn't contacted you, and you feel sad. Why do you feel sad? Because the person isn't there. Because they're not worrying about you. Because they haven't greeted you. You notice the person's absence. You feel like you're losing them or have already lost them, and that loss makes you sad. And since you don't want to feel sad, what do? You go ahead and text them. You say good morning. You ask how they are. So, since you weren't sought out, you go seek them out. Okay, what does that person feel? That you're there. That you're there. So what do they learn from their own behavior of not reaching out to you? Nothing. Nothing, because in the end, if they don't reach out, it doesn't matter. Before, they used to reach out and you were there. Now, they don't reach out and you're still there. Maybe I'm being overly simplistic, but I think we often don't stop to reflect properly on the other side of this. All we think about is our own feelings, right? Because it's natural. When I feel sad, I get more nostalgic, more sentimental. So what I think is, God, I miss this person. I don't want them to forget me. I want to cross their mind. I want to be present. But someone who isn't seeking me out isn't thinking about me, isn't showing me that they need me, isn't indicating that they want to have me around. And so, in the end, I don't stop to think about that. That if this person doesn't seek me out and I don't seek them out either. And look, obviously I'm not talking about the occasional day when someone who normally always reaches out doesn't, and you reach out instead. That's not a big deal. I'm talking about those cases where things have already been off balance for a while. Those cases where 9 times out of 10, it's you who reaches out, and at most, once, sometimes never, does the other person. Those cases where this person used to say good morning, but that stopped a while back, and now it's always you who initiates. You're the one saying good morning. You're the one saying good night. You know what I mean, okay? So if this person doesn't say good morning to you anymore because they no longer take that initiative, and you don't say it either, what happens? Well, maybe you're not there for them in the morning, but after a while, sure enough, that person hasn't heard from you. And if they happen to remember, they'll notice you're not there. Okay, but if someone gets me, whether they reach out or not, they have no reason to reach out. And I repeat, they don't feel the change. In other words, I do this so I don't lose you. But I keep losing you anyway, because if you have no initiative, I keep losing you regardless. What I'm actually doing is preventing you from feeling like you're losing me. What I'm doing is preventing you from feeling like your actions have consequences. Because when I cool off and pull away, it often hurts me too. And I still feel things. But that's a sign that maybe I'm changing my mind, right? Even if I still feel a lot, I might be losing interest. If I don't reach out, if I also stop taking the initiative, if I stop being there trying, then what I'm showing through my actions is that maybe I've had enough, that I'm not here to live at your mercy, that I'm not going to constantly put in what you don't put in. So there's an option here. I'm showing you through my actions that what you're doing doesn't sit right with me, or at least that I'm not okay with it. And then you might actually realize that if you do want to keep me around, there's a chance that the day you finally come looking for me, I won't be there. Okay? But if I just keep being there without you making any effort, like I said, nothing gets fixed. Nothing gets fixed. When people come to me with the speech of, Amanda, I've done everything for this person. Yes, everything, so that they'd look down on you. Everything, so they wouldn't value you. Everything, so they'd never miss you. Everything, so it wouldn't hurt them to have changed toward you. Everything, so they'd believe they could behave however they wanted. everything, so they'd learn that their actions have no consequences. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. So here we need to be a bit more realistic, look at the situation, and recognize that a relationship simply cannot be sustained by just one of the two people in it. One person can't carry the whole weight of the relationship, and that's exactly why fear of losing someone doesn't help, because the fear of losing someone and the actions that fear drives when I act on it simply achieve the opposite of what I want. If you pull away, if you go cold, and I chase after you, that's going to make you come back to me even less. The most it'll do is push you further away. Because if you happen to be in a moment where, for whatever reason, you don't want contact right now, and I keep being there, keep pushing, I'm going to make you feel suffocated. And that suffocation is going to push that person even further away. So, I repeat, we must not spare the other person the feeling of loss. Because that feeling of loss is the only thing that, in an unbalanced situation, can at some point make the other person react, reconsider what they're doing, weigh up whether what they really want is for us to disappear from their life, okay? That's the only thing. So I have to engrave it into myself, burn it in, understand that when I feel like I'm losing someone, my actions can't be aimed at sparing that person from my loss. If I lose you, you lose me too. If I lose you, you lose me too. In my coaching sessions, I always emphasize this a lot. And if you're watching my videos, if you're subscribed, and if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel, you're one of my clients too, in a way. So that's why I keep hammering the same messages. A lot of times in my videos, there are repeated messages, but it's important that they sink in. There's always some nuance. I always add something different. I always look for a new angle. I'm always looking for what clicks. But when you've been listening to my message for a while, something in you changes. Something in your brain starts to shift. Sometimes people tell me, look, I came to your channel and I didn't have the willpower to do the right thing. I'd listen to you and think, Amanda's right, but I can't do it because I'm too attached, because I don't love myself enough, because it's hard for me, because it gives me so much anxiety, because it's so painful. But from listening and listening and listening, what happens? When a message reaches you often enough, it sinks in. It grows bigger inside you. So that's why in the videos, there are important messages, repeated in different ways, in different forms, because it doesn't land the same way for everyone. It's like math. One teacher explains it and you don't get it. Another explains it and you do. And eventually it sinks in and becomes yours. It becomes yours. And one of these important things is understanding that there are things I can control and things I can't. However powerless it makes me feel, however unfair it seems, that's just how it is. So, among the things I can't control are whether a person pulls away, whether a person changes their mind, whether a person stops paying attention to me, whether a person does the right thing, whether I stay in someone's life even when that person isn't asking for me to be there. None of that is within my control. So what happens when I put all my energy and effort into what I can't control? Not only does it not pay off, it can often, as in this case, backfire. And on top of that, I pay the price for it because I'm pouring my energy, my effort into it, and it costs me. Now, there's another part that I can control, and that's how I act in the face of any adversity and trying to do the right thing within my own options. So what's the right thing to do in a situation like this? I repeat, if I feel like a person is pulling away, that they're acting in ways that show me they're not afraid of losing me, then sometimes I have to grant them exactly that. The best thing we can do for the other person, sometimes, is let happen what it seems they're going for. You're neglecting me. You don't pay attention to me anymore. You don't have time for me. You don't do this or that. I don't know what's going on with you. Well, it seems like you don't mind losing me. So if that's what you want, that's what you'll get. So in that moment, what's the part I can control? First, my emotional control. It's important to try to stay only as unsettled as is unavoidable, no more. And to do that, once I start managing these situations and I notice I'm never giving more than I should, never putting in what you're not putting in, but instead, when that urge to chase comes up, I hold myself back, I realize over time that this helps me a lot because it saves me a huge amount of energy. Energy that I can then put toward telling myself, it's okay, I know who I am, I haven't done anything wrong, I have nothing to apologize for. And I won't make up things that aren't true. I am someone who deserves the best. I am. I am someone who loves themselves. I love myself. And if today I need it, I'll go meet up with someone who's good for me, a good friend, my mom, whoever, someone who'll give me a hug, because right now I need some affection, someone to remind me that I'm great. I'll remember moments in my life when I've sown love, moments I feel proud of. I'm not going to question my worth. I'm not going to go into detective mode, driving myself crazy, looking for explanations, stalking social media to see if there's someone else. That's not on me. I can't control whether you go off with someone else, whether someone else has come into the picture. I can't, and I don't want to, control that. The only thing I want to control here is my emotional balance. So I'm going to make sure I don't pour energy into that, and instead try to stay as calm as I can within my options. I'm going to regulate myself. I'm going to go exercise. I'm going to meet up with someone who loves me. I'm going to put my attention, as much as I can, into my responsibilities, reminding myself, through my actions, that the most important person in my life is me, and that no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. The more I can lean into that space of what I can control, not giving into the impulse, not chasing anyone, not trying to force anything with anyone, when things get rough and sometimes we don't know how to act, the best thing is often to do nothing. But when I do nothing, I don't make things worse. When I let myself get carried away by my emotional swings, it sometimes leads to misunderstandings, to arguments, to things I later regret having done. And overthinking, I shouldn't have done that, also drains my energy. But when I don't act, I spare myself problems. So, faced with the headache of not knowing what to do, if I'm in a position where I don't know what to do, most of the time, the best thing I can do is nothing. Focus on myself and calmly wait. If that person wants to lose me, let them lose me. And we'll see whether, once they've lost me, they like how that feels. We'll see whether, when my name no longer lights up on their screen, they like how that feels, because a lot of the time, they don't like it one bit. But since we never gave them the chance to feel that, because we didn't want to lose the person, the only thing we achieved is that they never felt like they were losing us, and everything just kept sliding downhill for us instead. And that's not what we want. Let's be smart. Let's put our energy into what we can control. And let's not step off our own path just to avoid making a mistake. That's it. Whoever is meant to come will come. Whoever leaves without being pushed out comes back without being called. Okay? Well, I hope this video has been helpful, that you enjoyed it. If so, and you're not subscribed to the channel yet, I invite you to do that. Hit the bell so we can meet again like always. And until that day comes, as always, I'm sending you a huge kiss. Bye.